All right, folks, we are live here, and it's the Tuesday at 2 business session, and we are broadcasting. Uh, oh, I thought that was sometimes when I go live, people watching other channels say, give me feedback of any technicalities that aren't working right. So we're live on the Tuesday for 2 where we do business interviews. And today we have the soon to be world famous Brittany Winfield, a very good friend of mine that I met probably 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And she is just absolutely fantastic and a firecracker and super smart. And why I love Brittany and social media is she understands things at a very, I would call it an intimate nuance of how to drive home salient points on your social media. And Brittany has done a couple of in-person live seminars with us upstairs at in the People's Trust Company meeting room. And she is here today to give us some more advice. And I think we're going to go through a social media audit of somebody, and we'll end up sharing her screen. But Brittany is a very accomplished business leader. She speaks at University of Vermont. She speaks at Champlain College, and all sorts of other business organizations. So when I say she's the real deal, she is the real deal. And I probably did a terrible job introducing her. So I'm going to let her come over for 30 seconds and tell you all the things that I missed. And I'm going to go check and make sure the St. Albans page is live while
Yeah.
we're rolling. Oh, it worked perfectly. So we are live, Brittany. Beautiful.
Awesome. Well, I mean, so many compliments right there. How can I add to that? Thank you. Now I'm like, my head's this big. Thanks so much, Jay, for that intro. So I am Brittany Winfield. I'm the owner of the Winfield Creative. We are a Burlington-based, right out of Hula on Lakeside Ave, social media-focused marketing agency. We also help with things like email marketing, Google Ads, paid social media ads, content creation, really looking at your full marketing funnel, but specializing in all things social media because you can't really escape it nowadays. And without strategy, you're just kind of posting just to post. So I help businesses, and my team also helps businesses be able to invite that strategy into what is already working for them and for their business. So that way their content goes farther and gets them more visibility and discoverability in the digital space.
That, my friend, is a much better way to describe what's going on social media. And I'm going to hijack the conversation a little bit for
Yeah,
personal
go for
gain.
it.
Although I always say when somebody in the audience, even myself, when I ask a question about the topic, that probably quite a few other people are having the same question also. So here's one. It's a question slash, let's call it an observation.
Sure, go for
Uh,
it.
in the last 10 years of me doing social media um, for the bank, um, I look back 10 years ago and I'm like, wow, it was so easy to get the attention we wanted and get in front of the people we wanted. And every year, my standard line now, tongue in cheek, somewhat serious, and somewhat of a joke with Facebook in particular,
Yeah.
is I have to pay more every year to get less because I'm
Mm.
trying to keep up. Now, do you share or see that type of observation in your world, or is it just another reason to hire the expert to make sure you get all you're supposed to get out of the channel?
Yeah, I think, in this social media landscape, especially over the last, 10 years, looking back from 2016 to where we are now in 2026, things have changed. There's more ads that you see on the news feed. There is the introduction of AI into the news feed. There is just a lot more businesses in general coming out of COVID. We saw this entrepreneurial boom. I know you did as well, Jay, and continue to see that. Being that you are the person giving them money to start that business. I think that social media has also adapted based on what we've seen in these shifts in society and in the entrepreneurial space. So, social media nowadays, it there are more features. However, each feature is, I like to describe it like a different puzzle piece, that when you start to work on the different pieces and tweak them and rotate them and really get clear as to the picture that you want to end up with at the end of building this puzzle, things will work out. And as an expert, that's part of our job to figure out, okay, do you have your content creation figured out, or do we need to make that tweak first? Or maybe it's in your email marketing. And really, as I kind of mentioned in my intro, we look at what is working for your business and then being able to double down on that and expand on that and dig deeper into that, because you already know that it's working because it's converting for your business. So going back to social media in general, we have seen a lot of these shifts, and especially with paid ads really becoming a bigger part of the conversation in the most recent quarter. Especially, we've seen in the last 6 months, the last 3 months, this conversation about paid ads and what they do for businesses. And the good thing about paid ads becoming more prominent, and even Meta wanting to, and other social media platforms wanting people to kind of pay for reach, is the pendulum will swing towards organic also. So the less picture perfect that your organic social media content is, it really helps to build that human to human connection. So both play important pieces of your marketing plan, and it's a matter of adjusting them based on what your business goals are, and that leads to your marketing goals.
Well said. And boy, I was hanging on every word there because it is all very relevant and pertinent to the conversation we're having now and to the everyday life
Mhm.
of folks out in social media land. So,
Yeah.
before we get into some of your details, let's have a couple of broad stroke brushes over the top real quick. And I got a couple of questions for you. The first one I'm going to ask is, without naming names, we got to respect people's privacy and your book of business. But generally, what types of customers are you serving at the Winfield Creative? And maybe just talk about generic industry and how many employees they have, and maybe whatever details you can give without being too detailed.
Yeah, so we typically, most of our clients are in Vermont, or at least touch a state that's touching Vermont. So we work with a lot of e-commerce brands, which are product-based businesses, folks that have an online store that are doing more direct to consumer work. They also might have a wholesale part of that business as well, which is where strategies like LinkedIn really come into play. We love working, especially with brands that invite short form videos, so video based content into the content picture. We also love working with service based industries, so folks that are providing services in the trades, especially. We've seen a lot of success working with our trades clients. Those businesses in particular have been seeing an interesting mix of, it's not as much trying to reach more residential or even commercial clients, but actually using social media as a hiring tool. We've had a lot of successes with our trades folks who are trying to fill those positions in order to then serve the community even more. And we love working with more medium-sized businesses. Typically, they have 5 to 10 employees. We're typically working with people that hold a director of marketing role, but they don't have in-house social media help. And yeah, typically they're based in Vermont, because we love to help Vermont communities because we live here and we want to give back to those who are our neighbors.
Very nice, very nice. So my second question for you is, we are live on the St. Albans, Vermont page,
Mhm.
and they have well over 40,000 viewers or fans and followers, I guess I should say, on that Facebook group. And quite a few of them own businesses, although I would venture a guess that the large majority of them that own businesses are on the smaller side. There may be, I'm sure there is a large population of solopreneurs,
Yeah.
and maybe a few with a few employees, and some might be somewhat of a entry level management within the company. What would you suggest for those companies for some marketing strategies, just quickly off the top? And it might be people that do construction or a handyman or landscaping. And then we've got a lot of people in the food industry that are,
Yeah.
small and growing on their own. I won't mention names, but there's a couple of really cool ones that every time I see them, I'm like, wow, I would have never thought of that. And they've
Yeah.
got a great following because they got a beautiful product.
Yeah, absolutely. So for any size business, small, medium, large, just working out of a booth, one of the strategies that I've been teaching folks about is what we call both user generated content and employee generated content, especially for businesses that might not have a sole marketing team. You still have people, whether it be just yourself on your own or employees that you are hiring, that can be part of the marketing plan. The beauty part of social media nowadays is imperfect is actually cool. It's attractive. And as I was mentioning, it's about that human to human connection. So people care less if you are posting something that was done by a professional photographer or a $5,000 camera, and you could do a lot with just the phone in your pocket, and so can your employees. So if social media feels overwhelming, you might have somebody such as an admin assistant or just somebody who's on social media and chronically online who might be willing to compile that content and get it posted for your business. If that is feels where your business is at this point, if you're not able to hire a full-on marketing agency, that's okay. There's ways to do it with the technology we have in our pockets. And so that's employee generated content, so any content that's generated by an employee. And then there's also user generated content. We are seeing this huge boom, especially on social media platforms such as TikTok and Instagram, where we all know the word influencers. It kind of has it's like the dirty word in the room related to social media. However, even in the last 5 years, Jay, what's been so interesting to see on social media, especially on like as the evolution of TikTok takes off, influencers for 5 years ago, they are no longer influencers. They're actually now celebrities. So we are not talking about them when I use the I word. What I'm
Sure.
talking about is circles of influence. So I'm thinking about user generated content. Who are your VIP clients? Who are maybe circles of influence in the community that you could invite into your space to create content, or just get a little bit more creative as far as maybe putting together a giveaway with folks that have a bigger following than you. So I challenge people that are listening to this live stream right now to think about how might you put the work on other people in a way that actually is just engaging them in the process. We've used that strategy, especially like giveaway strategy, when we want to get more reach on our clients' news feeds. Product-based businesses, you mentioned food-based businesses as well. So both food and retail, thinking about maybe how can those pillars work together. I've seen some really interesting collaborations happen in other parts of Vermont where essentially like a retail store, for example, a boutique is writing lists of who are these circles of influence, who are the realtors that need to look their best and feel their best in order to drive income for their business, who
Mhm.
are the who hold maybe director roles in larger organizations that are a circle of influence, and then can essentially be a walking billboard for you to say, oh, I got this at this boutique. And so we've seen this. We've made this recommendation to some of our coaching clients, actually, to say, like, invite these other business owners into the space. So the retail sector, if you offer free styling, for example, invite the restaurant folks or other people that you know into the space for free styling. You're doing it anyway. You're already offering it. But say,
Mhm.
hey, we'll do a free styling session with you. Do you mind if we do a collaborative Instagram post in exchange?
That's
Or
fantastic.
yeah, or same thing for a restaurant. See who you can invite. If there's any, um, gastro pub enthusiasts or, barista enthusiasts, whatever your signature food
Yeah.
or beverage choice is that you serve, at your location, think about like who's already posting that type of content in the community and invite them in for a free latte and say like, hey, it'd be cool if you like made a reel while you're here. And chances are they'll say yes. Yeah. So that's a
That
really easy strategy.
That's pretty cool, and that's kinda like you go back in the olden days when people would pay Michael Jordan $1,000,000 to, stand there with the sneakers, and,
Yeah,
of course, nobody can afford that today, or at least nobody that I know, but you're doing it at a digital level in
yeah,
social media locally, and it pretty much works the same, so
yeah.
I think that's absolutely brilliant and genius to do that.
Hey, well, you know what? Vermont won't allow billboards, so you got to work it in somehow in your marketing plan. And yeah, it just happens to be a digital space. Another thing I tell people, like Vermont, it's like 2 degrees of separation here. There is no 6 degrees of separation
Yeah,
here. So social media, if we can change our mindset from yes, technically it's a mass communication platform, but especially for local businesses, think less about how mass and just gaining followers and reach and numbers and thinking about how can I use this as a way to build community and connect with people that will come to my physical store. It doesn't matter if you reach somebody in Tennessee if you only sell to Vermonters. So think about who am I trying to reach and how can I invite myself into digital spaces? Because social media, if we switch our mindset from a mass communication platform to, oh, this is a way to get digital word of mouth, digital referrals essentially, you'll become so much better at fine tuning the content, the way you speak, the slang that you're introducing in your captions, because you're trying to reach that specific audience instead of trying to market to everybody on the internet.
very cool. Hey, one more quick question, and then we can dive into another topic. While you were describing some of those strategies, I was thinking locally of anybody that was doing something, quite a bit different than what I've seen other people doing. And I'm not sure if you've heard of Herbalife with these tea shops, but there's a bunch of them in Franklin County. There's one called Lake Life in Milton. Downtown St. Albans has Routine Nutrition.
Mhm.
There's
Yeah.
a line just to the north of me of where I am at Franklin Park West. There's another one, I apologize, I forget the name, in Swanton. And
Mhm.
one thing those folks have done, which I thought was absolutely brilliant, was when you buy a tea, you can get $1 off if you agree to post a picture of your tea
There
on
you
social
go.
media. And
Mhm.
when you've got 2, 3, 4, 500 people walking in the door, and at least half of them want a buck off. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a pretty huge organic saturation
Yeah.
of,
That's
how
social
cool is
proof right
that?
there. That's exactly that was a perfect example of user generated content. So the customer is using the product and thinking about how much more powerful it is to see a routine customer tell that story of how they love coming to the shop. Their go-to is, a medium-sized matcha, whatever your order is. Think of how much more powerful it is coming from them rather than seeing maybe graphic of a Google review that they left 3 years
Sure.
ago. It's just that's kind of how it's still social proof. Both of them are ways to show in a social way that proof that you know what you're doing and provide value to the community. But where we could get a little bit more creative is how we present it. And that's exactly what you just mentioned here. And I think it's so smart to invite that into the space and or also like to support the customer as well by giving them $1 off. I mean, chances
Yeah.
are they're gonna maybe tip higher also and give it back into the community. But it's like this ever rotating ecosystem of, okay, we're giving back to the customer. Chances are they're going to put it back into the community in some way while also helping the business grow at the same time in a digital space.
Yeah, and a quick comment on that, and then we can dive into some other topics. And I see we got a bunch of people watching. If you guys want to ask Brittany a specific question about
Yeah.
your business or a strategy, drop a comment in, and it'll populate on our chat, and we can ask Brittany because she is here
Mhm.
for you, not for me. I'm just asking questions that I think you would want to know the answer to. But
Yes,
and
use
just
the hard
one quick
ones.
observation on that, on the tea shop. One day I was, I get up at 4:30, I go to the gym, and I do the shooting league on Thursday after work. And I was really tired this one day, so I went in because those things are loaded with stay awake juice. And so I said, I need something to keep me going through the dinner hour. And I got one, and I went down there and I got all fired up on the mango flavored, whatever it was. And I ended up winning that night, and people were like, "Hey, how'd you do that off?" "How'd you do that?" And I said, "Well, it must have been the drink I got from the tea shop."
Heck
And the
yeah.
next week, another guy said, "Hey, you going in there? Pick me up one too." And then we got first and second that week. And then before you knew it, I was dragging 4, 5, 6 of those drinks down to the shooting club. And
That's
then it
funny.
got crazy. And I'm like, all right, guys, I can't do that anymore. We gotta tone this back. I'm not the delivery guy for
There you go. That's
meals.
really funny, Jay. And also that brings up a really good point is if you are somebody, a customer, for example, that you've been going to the same shop, the business owner might be nervous to make the ask. I see this all the time. It was like, okay, how do I do it in a subtle way to ask? So if you're somebody who, has a digital presence, even just Facebook followers that you are a circle of influence among your digital community, that's why it's so important to post about your favorite businesses anyway, because oftentimes we see, people complain on a Google review. We very, opposite. We don't see as much positivity being infectious until like people remember to make the ask, and sometimes that's daunting for a business owner. They forget, it's busy, whatever. So especially thinking about how to support your small businesses, your favorite small business, for literally $0 besides shopping at their location, is giving them the social proof posting, especially if you are active on Facebook stories, Instagram stories. Those are temporary, they're 24 hours. And for a business owner to receive that notification and that little bit of gratitude, I promise it'll make their day a lot brighter. And also, it makes it easier for them to really quickly reshare onto their stories, which then you basically did the post for them for the day and told all your people, look how amazing this business is. I want to see them succeed. So go try it out as well.
All right, so that is going to be the task of everybody watching this, either
Yes.
live or on the recorded later on, to go whatever your favorite business is, take a minute and share some love locally because it means a lot. And
Yeah.
and I do know a little bit about positivity.
I know the I motivate king over here. Love
All
that.
right. Well, the topic of the day, and I kind of delayed that just because I wanted to get into some great advice from you. But you were talking about doing an audit of folks' social media channel or their social media presence.
Yeah.
What is that, and where do you want to go with this, Brittany?
Yeah. So, for anybody watching right now, if you have a business social media page, could be a Facebook page, it could be an Instagram, I'd love for somebody to drop their link to it in the chat here, and we will do a live audit right here. Now, this is not to be meant as a harsh criticism. Instead, it is a way for you to gain really simple changes and adjustments to your social media page, and of course live feedback from an expert, so that way you can make these changes this week and it'll actually help your business's social media grow over the next few months. That's really what I focus on. This is a marketing audit that I've done for hundreds of businesses in Vermont. Jay's seen me do it live and in person before. I tend to do it in conversations sometimes because I just can't help it and just love social media so much. I essentially, during these marketing audits, look at 3 different pieces of your marketing. One is optimization. So with any profile, you need to make sure, especially if you have not looked at it in the last year, how to optimize it. We are moving from a social media landscape where it's been all about hashtags, and now we're moving into a landscape where it's all about keywords and SEO and AEO, which is answer engine optimization with the increased usage of AI. So that's number one. I always look at, okay, how can you optimize your business profile? Second thing I look for is attractiveness, and this is related to the content. Is your content relatable? Is your content intentional based on who you're trying to reach in your target audience? And is it leaning a little bit into this creative content mix that we like to use as a framework most social media professionals follow? The third thing that I look for is engagement. So, what your engagement strategy is. So, just broadly, social media is a 2-word phrase. We often forget. We so get so wrapped up in the media part of it that we forget that it's a social network. And especially now in 2026, that piece, and especially for local business owners who don't have a ton of time to create the media parts, leaning on the social aspects, the conversations, the engagement is a really easy way for you to grow your profile with just 15 minutes a day. And this is actually, Jay, something that I do for the Winfield Creatives profile. As the coffee machine is dripping, that's like how I like to gamify it. You know, an 8-ounce cup like pour of coffee, or
Yeah.
8-cup drip. I like to challenge myself, how many other people and accounts can I interact with by the time that my coffee's done. So if you need to take on that system too, great. But that's the third piece that I look for in any of the marketing audits that I do: is it optimized? Is your content attractive and relevant? And what does engagement or these social pieces look like? So I invite anybody who wants a free audit right here and now live, as long as you're okay with 40+ thousand other people looking at your content, to drop your handles in the chat. And I'd love to take a look and see what we find and learn from you.
All right. So I think one of the challenges is I've got this set up to project on 5 total channels.
Mhm.
The St. Albans group, as I mentioned earlier, is the page. That's the only one that won't populate directly on the chat here. But let me
No,
go into on my phone here and I can check the comments directly here. I just can't see them
perfect.
through our chat. There's the
And I'll
St.
take a
Albans.
look here too. What I'd love to know, or what I'd also like to mention, is anybody who is watching now, I'm going to provide you with your own scorecard. Whoever doesn't get chosen, I'm going to provide you with your own very simple scorecard in which you can also do an audit yourself and follow along with that.
Ooh. Well, that sounds really interesting. Maybe and I only had you stay. I invited you for 30 minutes, and we've only got 3.5 left. Let's dive
That's
in.
okay.
Can we dive in that scorecard and maybe give a couple
Yeah,
of examples
yeah,
of
I'd
people
love
that
to.
you?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's hit it.
Jay, I'm
Let's
gonna
hit it.
share my screen if that's cool with you. Let's
Absolutely.
go through it. I'm gonna actually really quickly pull it into a separate tab real quick, and then we'll share that screen.
And hopefully you can share from your end
Yeah, I should be good. Okay,
because I think we're both in there as admin privilege.
perfect. So we have the scorecard here. Sorry, I'm just gonna quickly. There we go. Okay, let's take a look at this. So this is a tool that I created.
And it's not showing up on my end.
Yeah, it should
Yeah.
be good
Okay.
now.
Here we go. Add to scene,
Awesome.
and
Okay, great.
you
Yay, it
are.
worked. Awesome. So, what this tool is I like to put it out onto the Winfield Creative Socials at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year, because I do recommend at bare minimum once a year, but businesses change. You go through sales cycles, right? So things change in your business. And so I always recommend this bare minimum once a year. Recommended really every quarter, 6 months. Truly, though, if you have not looked at your profile since the day you started it, do it today. And then let me know if you need help. So this is essentially a mid-year social media mini audit. It's a scorecard that will score you in the 3 areas that I just mentioned to you. So 1 is optimization, 2 is attraction, 3 is engagement. So let's look at optimization first. What optimization is your profile discoverable? Is it visible? Can people find it based on, and this is the important part, I'm going to asterisk this. This is a 2026 strategy. Is your business searchable by interest? People are less likely nowadays, because social media sits at the top of your marketing funnel. So we've seen this like awareness, right? People who are searching, and they do not know who you are, but they do know what is relevant to them. And that is the relatability that you bring to your content, and the findability piece, which is your content and what you're talking about, the topics of interest to them. because that's what they're searching for. They're usually searching social media for value, for
Mhm.
answers to questions that they have. So I just want to clarify that because that's even more important nowadays. So a few things to look out for. My bio, your profile bio clearly states what I do and who I help. So take a look, read it. That's at the top of your profile. All of these pieces are looking at the top of your profile, which is what we call above the fold, which is a traditional media term. Second piece to look out for, your profile is branded and it's consistent and recognizable. So I want to make a quick distinction that there's a difference between a personal brand and a business brand. A
Mhm.
personal brand is if I, for example, am a solopreneur, I'm a coach, I'm a mentor. Brittany is at the forefront of the brand. There's only one person involved. A business brand, though, is when you are working and operating in more of an organization, an agency model. So the Winfield Creative right now is going through this iteration right now. That's something we're trying to figure out behind the scenes. How do we make it less about Brittany and more about the rest of the team and the interest of our target audience? So your profile photo should reflect that, especially if you're going through expansion and changes. Third thing to look out for is that your link in your profile on your Instagram profile is directing followers to the most strategic destination. So this more than likely is going to be your website, your homepage, but also in the case such as you are taking custom orders for a period of time. This might be a specific form. If you are directing people in a post to, let's say that um, you just had a national blog post or podcast, like you were featured on something, more of a PR moment that you can highlight. That is a link that you should add to that link list. But really, I want to highlight what that signature link is, and that usually is your website or your next step as far as that sales, that conversion. Then highlights or pinned posts to orient new visitors. So highlights are these little circles that you see, not the stories, which are at the very top, but highlights sit right underneath your profile. Highlights are becoming a little less irrelevant nowadays, which is why I added pinned post. Highlights are essentially when you have a story that you add to. Stories are temporary, they only last 24 hours. However, how to keep them on your profile is to add them into your highlights. I
Mm.
usually only recommend topics that are evergreen. So client wins, statistics that are relevant to your business. If you're really confused, don't even worry about a highlight, honestly, because I do want you to focus on pin posts more so. Pin posts, you could pin up to 3. And these are posts that stay at the top of your profile. They exist both on Instagram and Facebook. And even when you post things after it, they stay pinned at the top until you manually take that pin down. I always recommend this for one of the posts being get to know me, one of the posts being more of a social proof, so a testimonial, a case study, something that shows proof as to you doing what you're doing, and service offerings. So how do people work with you? And then this also might look like a rotating pinned post. So you have a sale going on for a period of time, there's a strategy behind it, but you definitely want to have at least the about me type of pin post or about the business, and what your service offerings are. Then last piece to optimization is that you use SEO driven keywords in both your bio and your captions. So keywords, they are words that are relevant to your business and more so to the potential customer that you are trying to reach. So if you do not have access to these fancy SEO tools that a lot of marketers do, an exercise that I have my clients do is literally close your eyes and imagine yourself going to google.com. Actually, no, take yourself out of the picture. Imagine your ideal customer, your target audience, sitting down at the computer and typing in www.google.com. And then there's the search bar. What words would they be typing into Google's search engine to find your business? And this might be based on geographic location. This might be based on the problem that you solve. This might be based on the topics in which you cover in your industry related lingo. This might be the situation in which your customers find themselves in which then it leads to a call on your end. So these are the types of keywords that you need to be embedding into your captions. So I like to also encourage my clients to dig deeper. A lot of folks are not digging deeper nowadays in their captions, especially if you're using AI to write your captions. It's okay to, use it as a baseline, but inject a real story in there. Go deeper. If I talk about, let's talk about like, I'm trying to think of a topic off the top of my head. So let's use the bank, for example.
Mhm.
If I were you, Jay, we could talk about lending, but who, what, where, why, when of lending, go deeper. And then that also helps you create more posts in the end as well, because you don't want to be talking too much about everything in one post. So moving on to attraction. So are you drawing the right people? That is kind of a transition from the last one we just talked about. So have you looked at your Q1, Q2? Have you looked at your last 6 months of social media data, your marketing data, in order to identify your top performing posts? If you're not, you're just putting anything out there, but you know that some of your posts work. So one post has to be number one, so one post has to be number one. So go find out what your number one or your top 3 posts are, and then
Mhm.
do it again. Ask yourself, okay, what might have made this one, like, what's the strategy that I just happened to include that people have been interested in? So if your top 2 posts, for example, are posts for, let's take the Herbalife as an example. If the top
Mhm.
2 posts were posts that they didn't do but others did, and it's talking about a customer, do it again. Like, that system works, it works. Then also, the content that you share, you should be showing content that shows both your expertise and your personality. So connection is important when it comes to content nowadays. And that's why people are less drawn to picture perfect content and more for what we're calling authentic content. And expertise really shows that you are the expert, you're the authority, which, when we're thinking with our business brains, if you are developing that, yes, brand trust, but also people trust, people's
Mhm.
trust company. I was like, look, it's right
Well
there.
done.
That's the tie-in. If we are developing that people trust, of course you're going to appear more approachable and people want to talk to you and learn more about your services because you're building that trust with people in a digital space. Last 3 pieces for attraction, that your current content pillars align with your audience's needs. So talking about interests, what does your audience need? And then spin it and talk about what they need. Uh, if you experiment with different discoverable formats, so reels, which is the short form video, carousels, stories, etc. So experimenting, not there's kind of 2 reasons why I recommend experimenting. One, there's always going to be shifts in the algorithm. And it's
Mhm.
really annoying to keep up with, even as somebody who has to keep up with it as her job. That's not your job, that's my job. And I know how annoying it is. So in order to appeal to the algorithm, I never tell people only do one type of content. You should be experimenting and kind of having different types of creatives going out the door, because it can help you expand that content so you can actually take one idea and present it a multitude of ways.
Mhm.
Um, and that takes the brain power away from you not having to always like reinvent the wheel. But also, that naturally then appeals to the algorithm because you're doing all different types. And also, you get to know what you're fastest at. So people don't always believe me when I say this, but I'm so much faster on video and putting a reel out the door than I am creating a Canva graphic.
Yeah.
That's just that's how my design skills are. And, we have people on our team who are a lot faster at it than I am. So, that's why the majority of the content that you see on the Winfield Creative is video, because I could take it from my car. I could take it from a telephone booth. So that also helps you figure out like what is the most fast for your team to just get it out the door. And then last but not least, for content, people regularly save, share, or tag others in my post. So if you're scoring yourself low on this category, this tells me a few different things. We should be inviting more conversation into our content. So asking questions, either on the graphic, in the reel, somewhere in your post, inviting questions. So that way you open up the conversation and not always selling people. Like, it seems counterintuitive, but real quick, I'm going to teach you guys the framework that all social media managers use. So get a pen out if you have not had one out. It's called the 50-30-20 rule. 50% of your content should be providing value. This is usually the educational types of topics, the interests that we've been talking about. 30% should be connection and engaging type of posts. So inviting the conversations. This might be a human to human connection, might be more inspirational posts, these storytelling type posts. Then the 20% is more of this promotional post. This is where paid ads, this is why paid ads really is its own thing, but organic and paid work together now in 2026, because organic builds that brand trust because you're not majority selling to them. That's what paid ads are for. So if
Mhm.
somebody sees a paid ad, the next thing they do is click your profile, or they click, hopefully they're clicking onto the landing page to go buy your thing. But if they're not and they need to see the trust first, if they
Yep.
click into your profile and all they see is you trying to sell at them, you're not building trust with anybody. You're just trying to sell stuff. But the promotional piece, keeping that to like a 20%,
Mhm.
that goes such a further distance nowadays, and drives more attention to the pieces of your marketing that will sell, such as nurturing on your email list, or them going to your website. So really, when we're thinking about how to encourage people to get more reach on your content, we're thinking about, okay, how do I make a post that encourages people to save it or share it with somebody else? That's
Mm.
why we see a lot of like humorous posts nowadays, because people are more likely to share like sports highlights with their buddies in the DMs, or a funny comedian bit, versus like go buy this microphone or whatever you're trying to sell.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is tagging others in posts. So we are in a community landscape. So when I was talking about how do we invite community in, thinking about how can you work and collaborate with other accounts, other business owners, to do a giveaway or to tag your customers in these posts when you're talking about them, or tagging employees if they're comfortable with it, because that invites this cross collaboration that really makes your content attractive. And last but not least, and I don't want to keep us for too long, but I could talk forever about social media, that engagement. So are you building connection and trust in the form of the actions that you're doing? So again, this is the social piece to social media. We talked about the media piece. Now we're going to talk about the social pieces. So do you reply to comments and direct messages within 24 to 48 hours? Your social media page is an extension of your customer service. So if we are just pushing out media and not responding to people that are taking the time to respond, to make comments on your own post, that is not going to look good. It's like showing up to a retail store and the cashier is like out in the back doing whatever. Like that, we want to make sure that we are timely, because that's an opportunity to convert. So then we invite conversation in the captions or the stories each week. So whatever medium works best for you with what you're comfortable with. Are you including questions in your captions or in your content? And then are you proactively commenting on other accounts? That's an even more important piece. And that's a way to really grow your profile in a simplified way. You're showing up in the comment section where 40 other people are already intrigued. So instead of trying to ask for everybody to come to your comment section, show up in other people's and then invite them. Naturally, you're going to evoke curiosity in them. So that way it drives eyes on your profile. And then a clear call to action in at least one of your posts. So call to action is directing people to that next stage. This is where that promotional post, that 20% post, this is where you want to be super clear. You already did the hard work in developing the trust. Now, when you go to sell them, Tell them where they can register, learn more, visit. Like, we are open during these times. They have to be told. People's attention spans are so low nowadays that they have to be told. You did all of that hard work to get their attention. Please make sure that they know exactly what action to take next. And then last but not least, my followers, oh yeah, there you go. My followers know the next step to take. Great. So we want to make sure that that is absolutely clear. So are we directing them to a link that's in our profile bio? Is there a specific booking link? And I don't want to make any promises, but here's like some whispers I've been hearing on the interwebs, that we might be seeing the ability to add direct links, like external URLs, soon to our social media posts. Right now, that's available for people that pay to play with Meta. But also, there are ways around that. So there's a few different ways that we can build that into the social media strategy based on what makes sense. But we always want to make sure that it's super clear as to what direction we want our followers to take next, because we did work so hard to get their attention that we want to keep them in our circle, into their community. So, yeah. And
Wow, that was go. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, that's okay. And that's it. You are able to score yourself. And also, I just want to preface also that the first time you do this might be a shock to your system, but also give yourself a little bit of grace. And now you know what to look out for. And even if you work on one section for the next 30 days, which is what I recommend, that means by next quarter, you've looked at it and you already worked on it. So I just want to preface that as well, because it can feel like a lot. And I totally get that. So yeah, make sure you're at least looking at it a little bit and dive deeper when you can.
That's fantastic. I think I made 5 pages of notes during your audit strategy here. Is that something you can drop in the comments, Brittany, or email it to me and I can post it alongside the?
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll put it in the comments here. And also, quick plug, if you want an even deeper dive, I do marketing audits. I just did one this morning for a local business. So if you are like, nope, this is not for me to do on my own, I want an expert to do this, this is something that we provide to local community members, to really gain strategy, easy, simple recommendations in order to maximize your marketing down the road. So that is, I'll also add that link in the chat below. So that way you could get on my schedule and see where you can grow your social media as well.
Boy, I think you and I should have a conversation. I might fire myself as a social media manager of the bank. So I
That's
think
funny.
you have some interesting and some renewed interest in another way to to approach folks and get some attention. So I think we're going to have another conversation off the side
Yeah,
of that, Brittany.
that works
So
for me.
what if somebody wants to have a quick chat with you? Where can we follow? Where can we contact you? What's the easiest way to do that?
Absolutely. So, as you might assume, I'm on all social media platforms, but I am most reachable on Instagram. You can follow along at the Winfield Creative and just send me a direct message, and I'd be happy to answer that. You can also feel free to email me at hello@thewinfieldcreative.com. And then, of course, on our website, thewinfieldcreative.com, in which you are able to find all of this contact information and also move forward with booking that marketing audit.
Oh, that was absolutely fantastic, Brittany. And I'm always excited when I'm going to have a conversation with you, and you never disappoint. You always deliver more than even what I was fantasizing of how great this could be. So I got a whole bunch of stuff I'm going to check real quick, but
Yeah.
I'll have a conversation with you. So I really appreciate you taking the time to come on today. And folks, if you have a business and you want to be on the Tuesday at 2 on the St. Albans Facebook group, shoot me a note and we'll see if we can get you scheduled on there. We've got a couple other folks coming up for next Tuesday and the Tuesday after. So yeah, send us a note. We'd be happy to feature you. Or if you have an idea of a topic that you'd like me to find an expert in, I can find somebody. Now, they probably won't be as great as Brittany, because I don't know how you can improve upon that, but we'll find somebody that will at least help move the ball down the field.
Thanks so much, Jay, and I appreciate your time and for sharing your community with me always and your expertise too. I mean, this
Yeah.
is people only get to see our public conversations, but we've talked about it all, marketing related. So, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day as well. And if any folks have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Now is the time to look at your marketing if you have not touched it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, my friend, thanks again. We got
Of
49
course.
minutes out of you. We only asked for 30, so that was a one heck of a tip at the end you gave us. So that is great stuff. Thanks again, and I am looking forward to the next time we can have a conversation here or a workshop in person. Thanks,
Heck
Brittany.
yeah.
We'll see you soon.